Hello, everybody. Excuse us for the delay and for the technical difficulties. So, you're watching Kamai Kamai. My name is Martin Blajeski, and we have an awesome show for you today. But first, we should get a couple things out of the way. So, the first stream was taken down for most likely for copyright infringement. We used a bit of a thumbnail from some movies and some games, and I just put text over it, and it got probably flagged by the algorithm for copyright infringement, which is not cool at all. But we're gonna move on with the show. Right, so as I was saying, have a bit of a change in appearance. My beard's gone off somewhere. It's traveled off to a distant land, and next week, who knows what we're going to have. Maybe a hat, maybe a suit with a tie. Who knows? We're just going to have to wait and see. So today we're going to be talking about video game adaptations. That is to say, we're going to be talking about video games that get transformed into movies and books, and the other way around. Games that get made out of other media, such as books, movies, comic books. Before we get into that, though, we're going to do a little bit of a vegetable portion. Now, I was going to do sort of like a documentation of how I'm learning the streaming process, how I'm getting into the ropes. Right, so I noticed that last week I had a noticeable improvement upon my streaming, and hopefully today will also be comparable. But last week I noticed that I talked a little bit too slowly with regard to making breaks. Like I made too many breaks between utterances, and that sort of impeded the flow of the stream of the show. And apart from that, I had a bit of a hard time managing the visuals, so I would leave a slide up for too long, for like 10 minutes while I was talking in the corner. Hopefully, I will rectify that situation today. And lastly, I talked a little bit too close to the mic, and that caused a lot of the wind from my breath to sort of go into it like I'm talking in your ear. And so hopefully you're going to tell me if I talk too close to the mic, if I make you hear the wind. Gotta avoid the wind, gotta walk around the wind. Right, so this is an interesting thing that happened just now, because I never showed anything else apart from myself and maybe some of the merch behind me, but this video got flagged for violating the terms of service of YouTube. And I can only guess that it was a thumbnail. So I had a thumbnail with Warcraft movie and Warcraft 3 and sort of like two orc characters side by side. And it said video game adaptations on top. And I thought that was a pretty clear message that I'm not claiming ownership of Warcraft. Just so we're clear, I didn't create Warcraft, all right? I didn't make it. I didn't program it. I didn't do any of the art. Just so we're perfectly clear, just so there's no confusion whatsoever. So an interesting thing happened regarding this, regarding censorship lately, and we're gonna do that first, because this sort of irks me a little bit. So there's been some news on social media lately. The president of the US passed this executive order yesterday, which sort of makes platforms more likely to protect free speech. So if you don't really know what's been going on, there are all these few social media companies that are the most popular, like YouTube, Twitter, etc. And they have had these rules that are sort of applied arbitrarily regarding this hate speech, this I know I hate to get political here, but hey, I got censored here, so I'm a little bit frustrated. Okay, but yeah, so they have this concept of hate speech, which is a communist concept. It is not used by liberals. It is not used by libertarians. It is not used by anarchists or monarchists. But it is. I think it was invented by China. It was definitely used in by the USSR in the League of Nations. So the League of Nations was the predecessor to the United Nations, and the USSR had to explain why they were putting people in gulags, why they were putting people in jail, censoring books, and all that. And they explained it through hate speech. So hate speech was something that somebody talks against the state or against the social orthodoxy, and therefore is against the people, and therefore ought to be censored because that is destructive to the order, the social order. And this concept is applied arbitrarily and by all these social media companies. And apart from that, there's been this concept of conspiracy theories. So conspiracy theories are basically anything that goes against the normative opinion, the normative view, and it could be something completely crazy, but that is like a personal opinion that is of somebody, and it is being sort of deemed untrue by the powers that be, by the technocrats. So Trump, what was really funny, that President of the United States, Donald Trump, he he tweeted an opinion regarding elections, something about this. If we do elections this way, if we do elections this way, it's gonna end up with a lot of corruption, a lot of cheating. Let me tell you. And Twitter decided, in their infinite wisdom, to fact check the president's opinion. So Donald Trump says, okay, well, this is my opinion, and you guys fact. So imagine this. Imagine you're having a private conversation. Imagine you call your friend on the phone, and you're telling them, well, the earth is flat, and I don't really believe that we have, I don't know, we went to space and all that. And you get the FBI agent who's listening. I'm kidding. So you get somebody who works for the phone company, and they tell you, well, actually, here's pictures of people going and taking photographs of the Earth. The Earth is round. And so imagine that happening in a private phone call or something comparable. And what Donald Trump did was he passed an executive order that sort of unleashes a set of sort of like a chain reaction that could lead to legislation regarding this, that will make social media companies liable for the content that is posted on their platforms. So what this means is that up to this point, they have been considered to be platforms, and they will they receive protections from the government for things posted on their website. So if someone posts a threat, if someone posts something defamatory, Twitter or YouTube is not responsible for this. And but because they're considered platforms for anybody to use, anyone who has like an internet connection, if you can, you are allowed to use it. But they have been sort of applying their own rules, their own arbitrary rules, that they decide what is true, they decide what is hateful, they decide what you're allowed to think, they decide what opinions you're allowed to have, and so they are no longer platforms, they are publishers. And what this means is that they should be liable if they select what is allowed to be on their websites. Then they are liable for the content that they choose to let up, because in a way, by not censoring certain content and censoring other content, they are endorsing the content that they are not censoring, and therefore they are publishers. That is the argument for that. But what does this mean for gamers? What does this mean for the gamer nation? Love the gamer nation. This means that this is a win for gamers, and the reason for that is because gamers are a sort of an easygoing community, an easygoing demographic. They're usually younger, they're teenagers, and they're very competitive. If you're a gamer, you're very likely to be competitive. And gamers, when they talk, when they talk in the chats or in voice chat, they often banter and they troll, and that's part of the culture. And this means that even though these are not directly games, these are not directly gaming platforms, the culture that will facilitate there because of free speech is allowed there. This will sort of bleed into other spheres. Now, Steam has been pretty good on this issue. I believe they have been, although they're launching Steam in China, which is a little bit weird, but yeah. And that Steam in China is, by the way, super censored, super like dictatorial. It has so few, it has so many restrictions. Anyway, this is going to facilitate a culture where people will be able to express their opinions, and this will ultimately be good for everybody. But there is a different threat that comes from sort of another angle. So gamers are the most oppressed minority, as they say. So on the one side, they have these communists sort of bashing them from one side, being the anvil, and then on the other side, hammering against them, and that hammer is copyright. So what happened right now? So basically, what companies are capable of doing on YouTube right now is that they're allowed to sort of take just one picture from something that you use, like for example, a tiny little snippet, or maybe like I don't know, maybe I even got flagged by Microsoft for showing like a little Halo logo in the background. Who knows what it's for? They never tell you, but what they do is they take a little thing and then they claim ownership of your entire whatever it is you're doing. If you're streaming, if you're posting a video, if you have it somewhere if you make like a documentary and you use 2 seconds of some song, or if you criticize them in some way, and this is especially important, they just turn on you completely, and they completely smash you from the other side. So the anvil has been removed or softened, but now we have the hammer to deal with. And these people are like, these people usually they will let you perform and use their content to an extent, but they will remove it arbitrarily like they did now. But what is even more sinister is that they can use it to silence criticism. And if for example, Tony, yo Tony, you got the money? I got the money, Sonny. Not gonna say it just in case they figure out that I'm talking about them, and then they decide to press the button and terminate this whole thing. So Tony from Japan decides to. They had some sort of leak, and it turned out that the game was really bad, and people are criticizing them, making fun of them, and they just pressed some button, and everything got terminated, all over YouTube and all these platforms. It got terminated. So this is the power that these people have. They can they can, you know, make a crappy product that they expect you to buy, and when it turns out that it's not good enough, they will just terminate all the people talking about it, criticizing it negatively, and by the time that people realize through word of mouth that it is bad, these people will have sold a significant portion, or they would have mitigated their losses. And this is what happens. This is what happens all the time. People just aren't that aware of it. I've just been following it because of, I guess, some PewDiePie stuff or some, I don't know, whatever. But this is what is going on right now. And this is something that we sort of have to fight against. I don't know how. Maybe we can just spread the word. I don't know, spread awareness. And maybe that's the first step. But this is also coming to Europe, to the European Union. There was this famous Article 13 that was actually passed by the EU, wherein people who have created various content, like big companies, big corporations, they are capable of sort of doing the exact same thing. So if you have just one thing, just 1 second of a song playing in the background, like for example, right now, if I talk trash about, I don't know, Sony, and they have a record studio and something produced by the record studio plays in the background with a guy like blasting it in his car, and I have no bearing, like I have no way of negating that. I have no way of turning it off, and this stream could be shut down legally by these rules in the EU, or at least I think something comparable to that. And even if it isn't legal, these people will do it anyway, because then in order to sort of challenge it, you have to hire all these lawyers to sue their company, and then it just becomes too expensive to pursue for just one video or just one, I don't know, one picture that you take or whatever. And this is what's going on. So hopefully I've spread awareness about that. Sorry, I just went off. I went off about this. This is like sort of like a frustrating moment for me, a go-off moment, a gamer moment. But now we're going to move on to the main course of the stream. Hopefully we don't get taken down again. I have a couple of pictures. Maybe I shouldn't show you pictures. Maybe I should just talk. I spent 2 hours or like an hour or whatever creating this presentation, PowerPoint, and maybe now I can't even use it because who knows? They could just decide, okay, this guy talk crap about our game, we're going to terminate him. Or even if they don't even know that I'm talking about talking negatively or positively, they could just decide to do it. And it's so frustrating because it creates for a bit more of a negative experience. We sort of have to constantly be on the lookout. We sort of have to be on the vigil. We have to be eternal guardians. Why do we have to succumb to all of these rules? Why do we have to be super careful so that we don't use just one snippet, just one clip, just one little picture from your game or from your movie? Like, what is wrong with you, man? Can't you just... Is there nothing more important than money to you? Man, it's like, imagine you have a guy criticizing a video game or reviewing a video game, and there's no pictures, there's no snippets, there's no clips. You're just talking about it, and it's like, what, do I have to draw a cover of the picture of the movie in order to review it? Do I have to commission artists to render a separate video game that looks similarly so that I can review it, and I can have the copyright for it? Like, what am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? And yeah, so a bit of a go-off moment again, but we're going to move on. And if the stream gets shut down again, well, I guess we're gonna have to figure out a way around that. We're gonna have to I guess we're going to start up a stream again, except I'm just going to be talking about this stuff, not going to be showing you any, because it's not that important. I tried really carefully to look for content that was not copyrighted. For example, when I took a screenshot of a movie, I took it from the trailer, not from like clips from the movie. When I took pictures of a video game, it was usually promotional material or just the cover of the game, the cover that's on the disc. But I don't know, maybe it's gonna get flagged. So we'll see. If the stream shuts down, you know that it's been flagged for copyright once again, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to navigate that situation. Right. So today we're gonna be talking a little bit about video game adaptations and sort of what works, how some of them have been good, how some of them have been at least decent, and how some of them could be better. Like I get this is a little bit of a critique of some of these, so hopefully we won't get censored. Okay, let's try this. All right. Is this picture okay? I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Or maybe I'm not supposed to show these things. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about what works, what doesn't work in video games. And we'll see. We're going to give a couple of examples. And fingers crossed. Okay, so the first one is Nancy Drew. Shout out to the fellow writers, game writers in the chat. Shout out to the Nancy Drew inspired game writers, and the game inspired by Nancy Drew writer. That's a shout out to you. Can we get an N in the chat for Nancy Drew? Yeah. So Nancy Drew is a really old book. It is a book from the 1930s. That is about this young girl. She's sort of like a Miss Marple figure, or Ms. Marple, which is like a detective-esque figure that goes around and solves mysteries, solves crimes, and it's just wholesome. It's nice, and I know that the audience might be able to recognize this. I might have played some of these with the audience a long time ago as a kid, but yeah. So the reason I think that this game works as an adaptation is because it's just been turned into a point-and-click mystery game. When you go around town, you solve these mysteries, you get clues, you get a clue over there and a clue over there, and you sort of get get to the bottom of the mystery, and it definitely lives up to the mystery element of the book. And I've actually read a Nancy Drew book. I just don't. It was a really long time ago, and I just don't remember the name. There's so many books. There are like 60 Nancy Drew books. Can you believe that? I was looking that up earlier today, and it was like a whole list of all these books, and there were like 60, 70 books. Which is pretty crazy. Also, this Polish guy, it's called Józef Kraszewski. He's written like 600 books in his life. He's published 600 books, like 200 novels, and I was like, this is crazy. This guy published on average 4 books per year. That is insane. So this. Hopefully, are we still up? Yeah, we're still up. All right, that's good. These guys are based. Again, the people that are into Nancy Drew, they know what's up. Next, we've got Warhammer. Now, I'm going to be going through these obvious examples, and Warhammer is a really cool universe. So the original is a tabletop game, so it's like a turn-based tabletop game. Like you can play with your friends, with your family, and it's been turned into video games. And the video games, in my opinion, are really, really good, especially Dawn of War and Total War, Total War Warhammer. And the reason I think that these work is because they've maintained really good aesthetic, but at the same time they have sort of tried to live up to the nature of the tabletop game by being turn-based games. So these are strategy games that are real time. So you control people in real time. You click around and you send them around. And by the way, if you look at the tabletop game, it looks just like a strategy game, like a PC strategy game. And right, so in my opinion, that is one of the core components of how a medium will work in another medium. If that is to say, if the people understand how the original works and they sort of pay homage to the original. And by the way, I love Total War games. They're like my thing. I really like them. I've played them since I was a kid, and really good. I haven't played Warhammer, but it's really good. And let's see. Oh, this is gonna get us in trouble. Let's just move on. Nope. Just nope. Okay. Let's Star Wars. There are these games that are made. Yeah. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. It was made by these guys, and it's like I'm just gonna turn it back. These guys. No, screw them. We're gonna dominate this. All right. We're gonna T-pose on the corporations. So the Knights of the Old Republic is sort of like a turn-based game. I've played it a little bit. They say that it has a really good story. I never finished it, and they say that some of the elements from the Knights of the Old Republic have been turned into canon even because they used or they made references to them in the movies, like the actual movies, the new ones. And this is a new one. Jedi Fallen Order is a new game. It's a new game, and they say it's pretty good. I don't know. I've never played it. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 is, and there's also an older version of Battlefront 2, and it was also really good. And in my opinion, it was just a really decent game where you compete with like clones versus droids, and that's why and just use the aesthetic of Star Wars. And it doesn't really capture the essence of Star Wars. I think that they could have created some sort of story where they had the philosophies of the Sith and the Jedi, and I just don't think that this works in this game. I just think it's like a Call of Duty reskin for Star Wars. Next, we got The Lord of the Rings. Now, this is one of my favorite, actually, my favorite movie of all time. And I just watched it like 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? I watched the trilogy again, and surprisingly, I've never read the books, but I really, really want to, and I imagine that I will really like them. And I'm just like super into literature, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. And there are these examples that I pulled up, and I think that The Lord of the Rings is really good for making. By the way, the reason I'm showing both the books and the movies is because the movies were inspired by the books, and the games were clearly inspired by the movies, aesthetically speaking, artistically speaking. So the reason I think that The Lord of the Rings works really well as a video game is because if you will see that this Battle for Middle-earth game is, excuse me, I'll just check if the stream works. Okay, it still works. So the reason I think that this works as a video game very well is because The Lord of the Rings is about these huge epic battles, and you can sort of capture the essence of that by creating a strategy game. And the Battle for Middle-earth and Battle for Middle-earth 2 are pretty decent, pretty good strategy games. I've played them, and I played them like I was like 12. I don't know, I was really young, and they're pretty good. I had a lot of fun, and I think that sort of element paired with the aesthetic of the game and paired with certain story elements implemented into the strategy of the game make for a really interesting experience. Now, I haven't really played Shadow of Mordor and the new game Shadow of War, which are like RPG elements that sort of build upon the universe of the Lord of the Rings. They have new characters, new sort of things and items and worlds and things to see, and I think that it works. It also works really well because of the again the very nature of the way that the stories are told. They are told like at least in the movie, it's like you have this incredible world and people explore it, and there's like they move from one area to the next, and then they come back to one area, and I think that sort of makes for a really good video game, like an open world video game like Shadow of Mordor, where people just or your character can just you can control your character to go from one area to another and then return to the next area and sort of have that um, have that experience. Moving on to what was next. I forgot. Oh, okay, comic book games. These games are. I love these games. They're pretty cool. I love comic books. I love comic book movies. I've never actually I've never actually read, but I know that Batman originates in like the 1930s again, or something really old. So you can't take me down for copyright because it's expired. No, I'm kidding. You can, but don't. And in my opinion, these games work really well because they have been. You sort of take the elements of the world and elements of the characters that they are about, and they transform them into mechanics. So, for example, Batman and Batman Arkham City, which is a really good game. Like the beginning of the game is so good. It's so cinematic. It's just epic. You should at least just watch it on YouTube. It's really interesting. And the main character Batman, he is a detective. The original Batman comic was called Detective Comics, and he sort of you have all these mechanics where you can stealthily go and you can beat the guys up, but you can also stealthily like sneak around and do all these stealth takedowns and then look for clues, and that sort of uh, that sort of makes it a Batman game. It sort of makes it something that is built into the mechanics that is reminiscent of what Batman is supposed to be. And same with Spider-Man. Spider-Man is this kid that swings around the city, and you have that in the games. Bless you. Someone sneezed. Yeah. Okay. So Spider-Man swings around town, and this is sort of transformed into mechanics in the games, and this is pretty cool. And I just lost my train of thought. Let's just not get copyrighted anymore. Let's move on to something that's going to get us into even more trouble. Let's just speed through these games. Like The Walking Dead as a show is a decent show in the beginning, then it turned out to be cringe and too slow, and they made a really decent game called. I actually just played the first episode of The Walking Dead. It's like sort of like an interactive movie, and you supposedly have all these choices, but then in the end, it's just basically the same thing. It's just nothing. Your choices basically don't matter. But Sonder is gonna be an epic, awesome game where your choices will actually matter. So make sure to keep a lookout for Sonder. Sonder is gonna be an awesome game, and it's gonna have actual consequences. Your actions will have consequences. So I think that this works because these sort of shows and movies, they can really work well as interactive movies. I think it can be done with pretty much anything, and you don't really have to work them into mechanics to make it happen. The next one is Mad Max. Mad Max is a movie about this guy cruising in a desert wasteland, and the game is about you cruising in a car in a desert wasteland. It's just a vast open world. You can drive your car and upgrade your car, and that's pretty cool. Then we have South Park: The Fractured Butthole, and this game sort of sticks to the core of what a comedy show is supposed to be, which is the comedy. So they just focus on these funny things, but they sort of incorporate them into the mechanics of the game. And that's basically what I think everything or most things come down to: the ability for the creator or the artist to, or the developer to, understand the original material, and then with their understanding of video games, transform it into something that is good in the other medium, in the video game medium. Another one is Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation, I actually haven't played it. I just watched like a couple of Let's Play videos of it, but just see what it was like, because I watched Alien a long time ago, and there was this sort of like an atmosphere of impending doom, where you just don't know where the alien is gonna come from. Is he gonna grab Ripley? Was it it? Just refer to it as it. Is it gonna grab her from that angle or from that angle? Is it in the vents? Is it over there? And I think this is captured quite well in the game, where you sort of don't know what's going on. You don't know where the alien is going to come from. You don't have weapons to fight back. You're just running away from the alien. And I think that is a decent way of doing things. I don't know if it was made very well. I actually don't know if the story is good, but that element to me sort of stood out, and they were certainly going for that. And that's, even if it wasn't executed, like, I don't know if it was executed very well, but they should focus on that and build up on that. Let's move on now to sort of a transition between things turned into games to things from games being turned into other things. So, The Witcher, the most epic, the most based series ever. So, The Witcher is based on Slavic mythology. Epic Slavic, awesome. So the original book was The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, and I actually haven't read it. I should read all these books. I should read it, but I am reading Polish things right now, so I'll give it a shot. I'll read it. Maybe I'll read it in Polish. So it was transformed into a video game, and the video games are really, really good. I've actually played the second. I just have the second one. I just played the second one, the Assassins of Kings, and it's so good. It's so well done, and I just love the epic Slavs. Shout out to the base Slavs out there, and but when it comes to the show, let's just say that it's not good. It's pretty cringe. So apart from certain aesthetic elements that the show has chosen, the show isn't about The Witcher. It's like 50% Witcher and 50% midlife crisis for middle-aged woman. I don't know. It's like The Witcher is, from the game at least, I got the vibe that The Witcher is about this monster hunter who goes on adventures and sort of hunts monsters. The Striga, the Rusalka, the, I don't know, Sanishte or whatever. And the show has that part, but it sort of has other things that are not necessary. So in The Witcher, you have like and by the way, the aesthetic of The Witcher is clearly inspired from the games, as you can see. But the the parts that are not about The Witcher are like about this little girl and about this wizard lady, this witch, and it's like, come on, just let me see The Witcher. I just want to see him slay some monsters. I just want to see him cast some spells and his eyes turn black. I want to see that. I don't want to look at your like problems. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't want to see The Witcher. And so, and that, don't get me wrong, The Witcher, the games have other characters. They have, in fact, they have more minor characters than the show, but they're just done from the perspective of The Witcher, and that is the core difference. And that is why I think that the shows are just the show, or like the Netflix adaptation. It lives up to the meme of the Netflix adaptation. The book, the game, the Netflix adaptation, except it actually looks pretty good. Gotta hand it to him. It looks pretty good. Henry Cavill looks pretty nice, apart from certain non-Slavic. This okay. Okay, moving on. Let's go. Just move on to Assassin's Creed. Now this is really awesome. Assassin's Creed, I just discovered this today. Assassin's Creed is based on a book by a Slovenian, an epic Slav writer called Vladimir Bartol, and the book is called Alamut. And shout out to the based and epic Alamut translators in the chat, people that translated this book that the Assassin's Creed is based on. We're really happy to have you, and hopefully you can share something about the book. How was the experience of translating it? I don't know. Maybe we'll hear a bit from you. So, so the book is. I just briefly contacted this person, this awesome translator, this linguist, and they told me that the book Alamut is about the formation of an assassin order in Persia. Bam! That's like Assassin's Creed. That is literally Assassin's Creed. So, Assassin's Creed is set in Jerusalem in the Middle East, and it is about the formation of an assassin order. Apart from these certain modern elements, but the core of the game is the historical part. The core of the game is this sort of realistic rendering of Jerusalem and the Middle East. And if you play the game, even the beginning of the game, you will see that it is about there is a philosophy to it. There is a excuse me, I don't know what's wrong. It's like when I start streaming, I don't know, it's like I've drunk 2 liters of Coke or something, and I haven't. Right, you mostly drink water, but right. So there is a creed in Assassin's Creed. There is a creed, and there's a philosophy, and people get sort of indoctrinated into it. They get it's like joining a cult basically, and that is part of what Alamut is about, as far as I understand. Maybe the base translator in the chat can tell us a little bit more. But yeah, and yes, we're gonna have dessert later. We're gonna look at the chat, and it's gonna be awesome. And also, I can stay a bit longer today because curfew's ended. We no longer have curfew. We can go outside. We can like stroll outside in the dark, but probably not going to because we don't do that anyway. So yeah, the movie Assassin's Creed. Now, the movie wasn't like completely terrible, but the main problem that I think that it had was that it just focused on flashy things like jumping and just wall climbing, which is actually really good. It's really good. It was done really well. It looked great, but the two down the two downfalling aspects of it were the focusing on this modern plot, this just autistic conspiracy theory. It's like stupid. It was just not gonna use not gonna use these words, but by the way, when Donald Trump is done with you, I'm gonna say everything. I'm gonna say the C word, I'm gonna say the B word, I'm gonna say like the moon is made of cheese, which by the way it isn't. I don't endorse that, but don't get me, just don't strike me down, don't strike the stream down. But yeah, so it focuses on this sort of modernistic plot element rather than the historical one, which is why people like Assassin's Creed. It's like something like mystical, something unique, something interesting, and apart from that, the story was just really confusing. If you haven't watched it, if you haven't played Assassin's Creed, you won't know anything that's going on. You'll just be thrown into this world where it's like, what is going on? Like, what's up? And right, so sorry, we're having certain elements introduced into joining the chat. So yeah, Assassin's Creed, I guess if you want to shut off your mind, you can watch it, but it's not really, it doesn't have like a philosophy, it doesn't have the core of the Assassin's Creed universe. And yeah, hopefully they don't strike Ubisoft, hopefully they won't strike me down for criticizing their adaptation a little bit. You can watch it if you want. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just saying it's bad. So let's see. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a speed run again. I think that these were done. Now, maybe some people are gonna get mad at me, but I think the Doom wasn't terrible. I don't think it was terrible. I'm sorry, but the reason why I don't think it works is because, and I haven't played Doom. I've only just watched a couple of clips of it, and from what I understand, Doom is about this sort of cathartic element where you slay all these demons. Just get a bunch of guns and you kill demons, and that provides you sort of a venting moment, sort of a catharsis. So, and by the way, if you look at the past, the philosophers of the past who talked about stories, like for example Aristotle talks about the concept of catharsis. So catharsis is what is a moment where you enjoy a piece of art, or in that case it was a play, where you sort of vicariously experience something, and that provides you with an out-of-body experience during which your body is purified. So it's like the Doom guy just gets inside your soul and he kills all the demons and it purifies your soul, and that's basically catharsis. That's the gamer explanation for catharsis. And another movie that is made from a video game is Silent Hill. And I thought that Silent Hill was actually not that bad. The first one, at least, it sort of maintained this mysterious element, this sort of horror mystery, this mystique about it, where you don't exactly know what's going on. And I think that the people that made the movies really did capture that from the game. Maybe they didn't do it in the sequels. They didn't do it very well, or are there sequels? Is there like a Silent Hill 2 movie? I don't know. I have no idea. But the first one was decent, and I know that it's like a meme to hate on all these video games that are turned into movies, but I think that it's like, maybe it's not what you expected, but you can't say that it's terrible, that it's a piece of garbage. I think that it was decent. You're gonna have a good time watching it. I think. I don't know. I had a good time. Maybe I was just too young. I don't know. Was it too young? Maybe the elements that watched it with me, maybe the people that watched it with me will tell us what they thought about it in the chat. So yeah, Resident Evil. Resident Evil's originally a game about zombies where like a world with a virus created by a corporation, and you sort of the corporation is trying to cover their tracks, and you're sort of navigating this world. You're going through this world, meandering through the zombies, and you solve puzzles to get from one level to the next. Now that is completely thrown away in the movies. The movies just turn into these action-packed zombie slayers, basically, and they're what Doom should have been. They're what the movie Doom should have been, just killing a bunch of zombies, and that's it. But I don't think for what they are, I don't think that they're bad, the Resident Evil movies, but I just think that could have sort of understood the games better and sort of created some sort of an element which is more focused on atmosphere and tension rather than just completely mowing through hordes and swarms of zombies. Right, so this is like Warcraft. I had some nice things to say about it. I don't know. Maybe the stream is gonna turn. Let's just switch to the next. I don't know. We're gonna go back. I don't know. Are they gonna strike it again? Is Blizzard? Are they gonna strike it again? I don't know. If we show Warcraft one more time, I don't know. Let's just give it a go. All right, we're gonna be talking shit about. Just gave him another reason. No swearing. Disavow. I didn't say. I said shiitake mushroom. I just mispronounced it. Right. I curtailed the end there. Man, this is hard. This is hard work. So let's take a look at Warcraft. Now, Warcraft is a pretty good game. I love Warcraft. I just like it. It's my childhood game, and I played it with my friends, and we had a really good time together, and I just have really fond memories. But also, I think that the movie wasn't that bad. I think that I'm just going to be honest here, and I'm not going to just talk trash just because they whatever. But if they, I don't know, I might do that if they do it one more time. But yeah, so these people created a movie that is based on Warcraft the game, and they, I think that they caught the essence of the game, which is to say that they used like different races, and these different races had different properties, they had different philosophies, they have different cultures, and they maintain the aesthetic. The aesthetic is pretty good. The movies look pretty decent. Now, let's see. I think that they could have captured the moments, the strategy moments a bit more, wherein they could have created this more epic battle at the end, like a more cooler stand rather than just a monster fighting the two main characters, and that because strategy sort of correlates in movies with big giant battles, because that's what strategies are about, usually just giant battles, and I think that sort of correlation works quite well. And apart from that, the plot was just unbelievable. That it was not good. It was at times it was pretty cringe, and for example, the medieval part where he just turned bad all of a sudden. He was like, "Oh, I'm this good guy," and like you assume that he's this good guy, and then he just turns evil. And it's like, if you're just watching the movie, if you don't know anything about the game, it's like, come on, man. That's just dumb. Turn off, leave the cinema, leave the popcorn uneaten, because you're gonna be so pissed. But uh, maybe not gonna be so pissed. But it's just a dumb element they threw into the movie, and I think they could have done it better. Apart from that, the Fell is this mystical magic that destroys everything and corrupts the orcs. When in the games, it is like the thing that corrupts the orcs is this blood of the demon, the blood of the demon Manaroth. So Manaroth gives the orcs more power. He gives them power and bloodlust and energy, but in return, they turn into vassals for him. And it's this sort of struggle for them to break free, to sort of, uh, and it's a really interesting story. It's a really interesting thing that could translate well in a movie. So the one group of the orcs is drinks the demon's blood and becomes more powerful, but under his control. And the other group of the orcs is weaker, but they need to fight their own people in order to restore them, in order to bring them back into the light. And that would be an interesting thing to talk about. That would be an interesting story to create. But they just chose this nameless, morphless energy called the Fell. That was like, I don't know. Maybe it's in World of Warcraft, but I didn't like it. I don't like it in the movie. I haven't played World of Warcraft. I just like Warcraft. But moving on. Hopefully this stream is still up. Let's check. The stream is still up. Right. Let's move on to books based on video games, and this is the last part of our show, or at least the main course, the last part of the main course. So we haven't read any of these books, but I just seen all of these on shelves in bookstores. I've actually seen these books. Well, maybe not specifically these books, but I've seen books from these franchises, I guess. I hated the franchises. It's like it's all about business and making money. I just hate this. But yeah, maybe I should read them as a guy that is into literature. That sort of it's my area of expertise, and I should probably read them to just see how they transfer into books. Like, do they? I wonder if the authors have a lot more freedom. They can transfer if they can transfer the story well into written form. I should check. I should see. But they're popular, so maybe that's the case. And that does it for our main course. Now we're gonna get into the dessert. We're gonna read your chats, leave your chats in the comments, and we're gonna be, because this is an interactive talk show. You don't get this anywhere else. This is an interactive talk show, and we're going to be interacting with the audience, the awesome audience. Love you. Now let's see what you guys are saying. The Silyanovsky says, spot on impression, man. Well, thank you. Do you mean that the impression that I leave is spot on? Well, thank you. I appreciate that greatly. The Trump impression. Yeah. I talk like Trump. Nobody talks like Trump better than me. So yeah, the Trump impression. Downey Studios laughed out loud when they saw the Trump impression. I'm really glad. Peter Kotoski says, "Gotta see the impression again." Well, I just did it, but let me do it one more time. Well, let me tell you, I don't know. What should I say? Let me tell you, our game, Sonder, is going to be the best game you ever played. Hands down. No one makes games better than we do. Yeah, so there you go. Dance monkey dance situation, but I performed. I delivered. I don't usually like those situations where people tell you, oh, do the thing. I don't do that. No more. That's cringe. All right. We're not going to have our actions dictated by someone else like we're pawns. No, we're not going to do that. All right. So, Peter Koleski. Politics will get the stream shut down faster than Warcraft thumbnail. Well, you know what? That's probably true, but at the same time, it's like, come on. What do you do in a situation like this? What do you do? Like, what do you just keep quiet and move on? Or no, don't do that, because these people rely on you doing that. These people do not. Those people will never change. The culture will never change if we just keep being silent about this and we just take it. But we have to speak up about it. We have to go against them. We have to just say, no, you're cringe. We're awesome. We're going to say whatever we want, and you can't stop us. You can't buy us. You can't buy people to stop us. And you're just going to be forgotten as a greedy entity with no life, no soul. And we're going to keep being epic. We're going to create things that last forever, and they're going to have our personality in them. They're not going to be marketed to some sort of audience. Well, according to my calculations, white people are buying our game. 60% of our audience is white people, so we're going to say this. According to our calculations, we don't have enough of this demographic, so we're going to install this into that game. No, that's cringe. That's corporate talk. That is bull. We're not going to be doing that. You're going to do that, and you're going to be forgotten, and we're going to be here just being awesome. A little bit of a go-off moment again, sorry, but it's just how it is. Oh yeah, I forgot I can do this. Whoops. I skipped one comment. Said, that's what I'm thinking too. Probably in reply to the politics thing. Yes, and probably going to get taken down, but it hasn't been taken down so far, and that's a good sign. But yeah, I just had a bit of a go-off moment, but it's fine. Tony Blaska says that Trump impression. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad I entertained you. Peter Koteski says Trump 2020. That's based. I endorse that. You know, I agree. Trump 2020. Let's get really political. You don't want me to get really political. I'm too red pilled for this. I'm too red pilled to be on YouTube. You don't want me being on YouTube and saying certain things that people don't want me to say. But yeah. Victoria Leska says being able to make fun of him is probably the only good reason he exists. Oh, you mean Donald Trump? Well, you don't really need to make fun of him. He's sort of like a meme machine on his own. And he's cool. I like him. He did something pretty cool yesterday. And probably the best thing he's done, to be honest. He hasn't been that active because he's been president for a pretty long time. And he hasn't done a lot of things that he promised. So, I don't know. Maybe. But then again, there's no one better. What are you going to... The alternatives? What are the alternatives? Like a senile old man that literally falls asleep in front of... like during the interview, like what? Or like a literal actual communist that is so weak that gets his microphone taken away from him by the audience. Okay, disavow. Not gonna be talking. Okay. We're gonna be taking a break from that. Peter Kotovsky says it was probably the Tommy Hilfiger shirt. Yes, this got me censored. This got me banned. This will get me. I'm copyrighted. All right. Smiley faces that are also crying because they're laughing too hard. That's what I like to see. That is epic energy. I like that. He also says, I knew you're a huge fan. Yeah, well, I haven't been watching PewDiePie lately, but I used to when I was younger. I liked PewDiePie a lot. He was pretty cool. And I think that he's like he's a very good person to be up there at the top. He's like a decent, he seems, at least he presents like a decent person. Even if he is the good guy in real life, he presents as that, and a lot of people take inspiration from that. He is watched by children, and children sort of hold him in high esteem, and I think that he's a good person to do that. So I'm glad we have some PewDiePie respecters. I actually don't know if you're a PewDiePie respecter, but maybe someone else in the chat is. Victoria Bleska says, if you want to show the chat on screen, you will have to talk to our lawyers first. Well, you sort of, yes. Well, if you'll give me the number to your lawyer, I'll make sure to call it. Sort of revoke your right to us not having your speech by commenting it on the stream. So that's the legal loophole that I've got you in. So when you sue me, I'm gonna use that. Oops. Downey Studios says, "Woo, that's me. Yes, that was you. You're an epic writer, and you're really good, and you're a really good artist, and God bless you." And N for Nancy Drew. No. Thank you, taken. I was kidding. Don't post that. Don't post N. Just N. Don't post that in the chat, okay? Because that's gonna get us banned. All right? Don't do that. Optics moment. That's bad optics. Don't post just N, okay? Just trust me on this. Petr Kotowski says, that was a power sneeze if I ever heard one. Yes. Na zdrowie. And Victoria Bleska says, I want to play Sonder. You will play Sonder. I'll play with you. We're gonna be actually, hopefully, well, I don't know. How about this? You'll play it wherever you are. If you're here in this country, maybe we'll play it together. If you're somewhere else, hopefully you'll play it there. And yeah. D. Silyanovsky says, Slav life! Yes! Slav life! The Slavs! The most awesome people in the world. I'm kidding. We love all people here. Love all of them. But I just love Slavs. They're beautiful people. They're awesome people. Love them. Victoria Bleska says, everyone should read Alamut. I think that people should just read in general. And this book is translated by an epic linguist from the Slavic sphere. So hopefully people will give it a shot. Read Alamut, the book that Assassin's Creed is based on. Just read it. It's going to be a good time. And finally we have Victoria Bleska says, it kicks ass. Alamut kicks ass. Yeah, well, I'm going to read it. Okay, I promise I'm going to read it. And is that the last chat? Well, that was fast. All right, well, we went through our chat, and we finished a bit later today, but we started a bit later, and the stream probably lasted about 65 minutes or 67 minutes. Around that time, Victoria Bleska says, the Bellio! Yes, the Bellio. D in the chat for Debelio. Don't do that. But yeah. So yeah, Debelio is a character from Sonder. If you want me, do you want me to be? I'm kidding. Yeah, so I'm gonna be writing dialogue for him. And yeah, well, that does it for the chats. That does it for the dessert. That does it for this part of the show, and that does it for the show. Thank you for watching this episode of Kamai Kamai. My name is Martin Blajeski. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time, next Friday at 5 p.m. GMT+1. That's 5 p.m. GMT+1 on the stream. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoy that too. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.